Morning, everybody. Uh, Going over the Monday night football games. Overall, not very good games, not very entertaining games. Uh, First, we'll start with the Bills and the Titans. Uh, it's kind of what I expected. Um, Titans were playing from behind practically the whole game, and they were unable to utilize Derrick Henry like I had thought that would have kept them in the game. Derrick, as if Derrick Henry's in the game. Otherwise, you got young receivers and not that great of a defense. So it's kind of what I expected. Bills remain Super Bowl favorites for me. Uh, that win didn't move them up a whole lot because I'm not very high on the Titans right now. But I will say beating the Rams and the Titans like that 2 weeks in a row is very impressive. Two two beat downs in a row like that. They're making a statement. If the Bills remain healthy, I see them at the very least making the AFC Championship. Not ready to make those Super Bowl picks quite yet because there are a few teams out there that I'm still kind of waiting to see, but Bills look really good. I'm a big James Cook fan. I know they haven't utilized him. I would say the only weak spot on that team would be their running game. Singletary's the middle of the pack kind of running back. He can decent at receiving, decent at rushing, but he's not going to break one off for you. And so I think if they put James Cook in there and they utilized him a lot more, I think that would be the best way to max out their potential. So, but other than that, I mean, I don't really have any complaints about the Bills. They look dominant, so they definitely, at the very least, going to make the AFC Championship game. I don't see any way they don't. Him and Diggs's chemistry is pretty much unstoppable. Gabe Davis was hurt last night. I noticed that Josh Allen and Gabe Davis's chemistry has increased quite a bit. Um, Again, for the Titans, kind of what I expected. They were playing from behind. Ryan Tannehill's not spread the receivers out and throw it deep or manage the game or calling plays at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't do any of that. He's a good quarterback if he got a good running game going because then he can do that play action rollout pass that he's pretty decent at. But him having no receivers, lost AJ Brown, Traylon Burks is a rookie. He's somebody I got a pretty high ceiling on, but he's going to go through some growing pains for sure because I don't think he's going to start flourishing until they make maybe a little change of play calling or, in my opinion, quarterback play. Um, I'm a Malik Willis believer. I wasn't quite sure why he dropped that low. To be honest, I was kind of shocked that the Detroit Lions didn't take Malik Willis or a couple other teams that might have needed a quarterback, but especially the Lions because the Lions are pretty not stacked, but they're pretty solid at almost every position. They got good receiver, good old line, good running backs, and a solid D. I thought Malik Willis, I mean, him dropping to the third. I mean, I'd understand if you didn't pick him in the Lions had 3 picks in the first round. I understand if you didn't even pick him in the first round, but they passed on him on the second and their third round pick. So um, Tennessee was just, I think, fortunate, and got he kind of fell into their lap, and it looks like it's probably going to end up paying off because I don't see Ryan Tannehill not getting benched or injured this year. If he doesn't get benched, he's going to get injured because he's going to be playing frantic and from behind quite a bit. At least I know Malik Willis is not very polished, but I saw him play in the preseason, and he looks like he has that it factor. Like you watch a quarterback play, and you know, breaking out of the pressure when they need to, making quick, you know, twitchy moves in the pocket and able to miss people. He's thrown it deep. Now I did see him miss a lot of throws in the preseason, but it looked like it was like a lot of mechanics. And look where Josh Allen started. Josh Allen, his first year, nobody believed in him. There was a very small amount of people that were like, "Okay, I see something." That first year of Josh Allen didn't take to that second year of Josh Allen until everybody was like, "Oh, okay, this guy is a future star." So, I think Malik Willis could start. I think he's going to have a rough start if he does, but I think they need to put him in there because Tannehill's capped out. You know what he can do. He is successful when you got the running game going, but what are you going to do when you're behind? Tannehill has yet to prove that he can lead a team from behind and score multiple touchdowns in a row in like a half, or he's not in that top echelon of quarterbacks at all. Even when he was on fire, I never really considered him in the top five. Um, that was when Derrick Henry was on a great streak. Um, yeah, so overall with the Bills, Titans, Bills I could see going on for 12 to 14 wins. I don't see them going undefeated. Um, Titans, man, they're kind of hard to say because I'm a big Derrick Henry fan. I still think he's best running back in the league, but he ain't gonna be able to play the way you want him to play if you're playing from behind constantly. So they got to shore up that defense, which I'm sure Vrabel will get them boys rolling. So I think that Tennessee, if they put Malik Willis in, they could maybe make like a 9 or 10 win season and rally the defense around. But Tannehill's gonna stand there, which I think he's gonna. I think Vrabel's honestly gonna be. Uh, he's gonna trust Tannehill because he did take them decently far. Um, I think he'll probably keep him in a little longer than what he should. On to the Minnesota Vikings at Philadelphia. Now, this game went a way that I was hoping that it wouldn't. This game changed my mind big time when it comes to Kirk Cousins. His record in the primetime games, as much as Viking fans or Jefferson fans or Cook fans want to overlook that record in the primetime games, Monday night, Sunday night games, playoffs, it's real. You look like that at home on a home opener. You look like a top, at the very least, top eight quarterback. And the next week you go to a hostile environment at night and you can't even make a throw. You can't involve the best receiver in the game. You choke that hard. You really pressure really has that much of an impact on him. Like that's very surprising. Like I thought, he's this many years in. They got a new coach. They had a great week one, beat their division rival, like who they need to beat for their division. And I figured this would be the game where Kirk kind of gets rid of that stigma that he has. But knowing that he didn't kick that stigma at all last night, I will never believe in the Vikings until they get a new quarterback. I don't, he can win all the games that don't matter. I guess he had one win against the Packers, but other than that, it just seems like he's beating the bad teams and he's losing against the good, and he's Not clutch. Under the lights. Do you want that dude taking you to the playoffs on a prime division game at 5 o'clock on a Saturday? I think it's time for Minnesota to move on. I think they're kind of thankful that they're at the end of the contract with him. Now, as for Philadelphia, I was very high on them at the beginning of the year. I'm a big time believer in Jalen Hurts. Uh, Last year, he didn't have the best statistical season. I think a lot of people saw that he could be a great quarterback, but didn't quite believe in him quite yet. You got to think his top weapon, Devontae Smith, last year was a rookie. And then you got Miles Sanders, who's essentially, yeah, he's good, but he's a scat back. He's a third down back. He's a receiving back. He's not. You can't line up under center and just hand him the ball and feed him up the middle. He's a smaller guy. You got to get him outside. You got to get him on stretch runs, and you got to get him on tosses and screens. So Jalen didn't really have the best weapons last year. Then what happens after in the offseason for Philly? They acquired AJ Brown, who's shown out to be a great acquisition. Um, and then they shored up that defense. I was a big Jordan Davis and N'Kobe Dean fan coming out. N'Kobe Dean dropped a lot, and Jordan Davis was a potential number one pick, and he dropped too to like at the believe 10th or 11th, somewhere around there. Uh, so I knew that them shoring up that defense. I know they're rookies, but those guys were supposed to be day one starters, and they are. And Mayberry's looking good. He covered Justin Jefferson very well last night, even though he was open on a few. But I mean, he did a lot better than job than the Packers did covering Justin Jefferson. Um, Although they were at home, that was a very hostile environment. Philly crowd. It's those are tough games at Philadelphia. Um, so I think that Minnesota, they're not going to make any moves. So just depending on how many tough games they have and how many night games they have, I could see them sneaking into a wild, maybe like the seventh seed in the wild card. But because here's what I think is going to happen with Minnesota. I think that they had that great week one and this horrible week two. I think they're gonna kind of find middle ground between the two throughout the season. I think they'll be a middle of the pack team, 9-8, 8-9. I think Justin Jefferson will still have a big year. I love Dalvin Cook. Thielen will play decent, but I think Cousins is going to give up more than that game last night. Their defense didn't look the best either. I mean, they got a solid defense. I'm a big Harrison Smith fan, but they got rid of Anthony Barr, which I think is showing a lot. Um, but they did get that pass rusher from Green Bay, and he's doing solid. So, I mean, their defense is kind of middle of the pack, but yeah, I see the Vikings overall as middle of the pack. Eagles, um, this is the time for the Eagles to. This is the year for the Eagles to take the division. Um, I'm not high on the Cowboys. They get. I feel like they got a very lucky win on Sunday. Who knows? I could be wrong about Cooper Rush. I don't. I'm not hoping against a guy. That would be a great story. Cooper Rush went on a run, but there's no way. I'm sorry. I saw the way he played. There's no way that he looks like a third string quarterback or a practice squad quarterback, Cooper Rush. So I don't see him taking the Cowboys on some fantasy land run. I believe in the Eagles. I think they'll end up. I think they'll end up with 10 wins. And to be honest, I could see Washington finishing in front of Dallas as well. I think they're a middle of the pack team, more of a 9-8 team. Maybe 10 wins, maybe if they're lucky. But Philly, I could see them getting 10 or 11 wins this year, and not quite the 1 or 2 seed, but I could see them getting the 3 or the 4. And Jalen Hurts, he's like a better version of Justin Fields, as in like he will take that team on his back if he has to. Like he made a good ass touchdown run last night. I think that if he has to, he can put the team on his back. But then now adding AJ Brown and Devontae Smith having another year under his belt. Devontae Smith at the 2, which he's getting single covered every play. So the more chemistry Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith get at that new position Devontae's at, I think that they're going to be unstoppable. AJ Brown is great on just man to man coverage. He will beat your man every time he's physical. He's like a shorter DK Metcalf kind of. Um, so high hopes for the Eagles. Like their defense. I like their weapons on offense. Um, I could see them finishing division winners this year for sure. Minnesota, I think they'll fall into third in that division. To be honest, I think the Lions are going to be competing with them for second.